Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your host Sean, and we are going to have a Bears only episode this week because my wife and daughter and I went on a little weekend vacation. Just a quick getaway. We didn't even go out of town. We just got a hotel downtown, did some fun things with our daughter, went to Maggie Daly Park, etc. But we have a Bears victory Sunday and all the Bears that you could talk in more. But before we start, as always, I would like to mention our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. The Ice Hogs, if you don't know, are the AHL minor league team of the Chicago Blackhawks, playing only 90 minutes from the city limits in Rockford, Illinois. Fun for the whole family. Tickets starting at just $9. Go see the stars of the Blackhawks of tomorrow, today. You could even see former stars of the Blackhawks like Brian Bickle playing for the Ice Hogs. And as an added bonus is 1 week from today, November 22nd, is the Ice Hogs will be playing at home versus the Lake Erie Monsters. Tickets starting at just $9, and they will have the Stanley Cup on hand. So you could see Brian Bickle play, some of the future Blackhawks play, and see the Stanley Cup. 90 minutes from the city limits, much more cost effective than the Blackhawks. Fun for the whole family. Go to icehogs.com. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. So, I am going to start off being all rah, because that's what you do when you win. Bears had a huge win against the Los Angeles Rams. That's what they're going to be sooner rather than later. But it was a 37-13 win, and it was a really nice win. I don't want to take anything away from the Bears. It was awesome to see that. However, we'll talk the good, the bad, and the ugly. And first, let's talk about the good. Zach Miller, 87-yard touchdown reception, turned a dump-off tight end screen into an 87-yard touchdown, which took the Bears from being in a hole 7-0 after the Rams just marched down the field and made them look silly, and they were backed up into their, the shadow of their own end zone, and they get an 87-yard touchdown. That helped set the tone of the game. That was fantastic. And Zach Miller is a guy that the Bears had under the Trestman regime. He just never played because he had season-ending injury. And that's the thing about Zach Miller, is he's a really talented guy. He's just brittle as I don't even know what. I mean, he's just absolutely brittle. Strong breeze will injure him. And it sucks because he's a really nice guy. He's a hardworking guy. He's a really talented guy. And it's nice to see him finally get the recognition. Last week he had the amazing one-handed catch to score the touchdown to help win the game. This week he had 2 touchdowns. It was just absolutely awesome to see. 107-yard reception on 5 catches. The average 21.4 yards per catch and 2 touchdowns. That's awesome. People are out there right now running on their fantasy football leagues to try to draft him, and it's just great to see. So that's the best. That's absolutely the end-all be-all of the good for me, because he's a great guy. He's worked hard. He's come back from so many injuries, and to be playing like this and showing not only himself but the league what he can do is really awesome. And then you had Jeremy Langford, who for the second straight game is filling in for Matt Forte. And Matt Forte is a really hard shoe to fill because he's he's an all-time great back. I mean, I know he's not in the upper echelon of a Walter Payton or Barry Sanders or Emmitt Smith or Eric Dickerson or anything, but look at running backs that have had the number of yards he's had over a career he's had, and Matt Forte has had a really good career. You can't really judge it because the Bears have Walter Payton, who's the all-time best running back, period. But he's the second best running back on a team that's known for its running backs. He's second in every statistic of Bears running backs. He's an all-time great running back. He was an absolute phenomenal pick in the second round. And he's been a third of the offense for the Bears for God knows how long. So replacing him is really a difficult challenge. It's not like you can just shove any old running back in there and be able to get the production out of it. And in comes rookie Jeremy Langford. And I want to go back and pull the tapes of when I did my episode on running backs and when I did some of my mocks, because I really like Jeremy Langford coming out of Michigan State, and I did mock him to the Bears in the 4th round. Kudos to me. Woohoo! Woohoo! Pat myself on the back. But I really liked him, and the one knock about drafting him is he's a very similar style runner to Matt Forte. He's a big guy like Matt Forte, big for running back, and he's not really a change of pace type back from Matt Forte. And that's what the league really is kind of going to now, is trying to have a change of pace back. You have one punishing bruiser guy, one fast guy, like a little bowling ball type guy. Whatever it is, you want to have something that's different style to try to break the monotony, because sometimes it's not the running back, it's the style. You have a big punishing bruiser guy, and they may be, if you have a faster smaller defenses, he might be able to carry them for 5 yards. And even if they're hitting him and he's getting yards after the catch, or yards after the initial contact, that's fine. Whereas if you have a really big, slow defense, maybe you want a faster guy out there to hit some of the holes and be able to take advantage of that. And so that's the one disadvantage of drafting a guy like Jeremy Langford, is he's way too similar to Matt Forte in their style of running, their size. But Matt Forte doesn't have the same engines that Jeremy Langford has. And to be honest, it's been several years. I can't remember if Matt Forte had those burners back then, but Jeremy Langford does have home run type speed, and he showed it. He had 109 yards receiving, 73 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. That was another great performance. And the awesome thing about this Jeremy Langford performance is it puts the Bears in a position of strength when it comes to negotiating a new contract with Matt Forte, because Matt Forte is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. And don't get me wrong, I was, if you follow me on Twitter as well as listen to the show, you know that I tweeted out a couple of times, Forte who, and that's really kind of a tongue-in-cheek type thing. We all love Matt Forte. We love him as a player, as a person, because he's a really good dude, and he's been an excellent Bear, and loved having him here, and hopefully we can have him for a few more seasons. But this team is a team that needs a lot of moving parts, and part of that is being able to manage your salary cap in a good way. And if you sign Matt Forte, if you don't have a capable running back and you're sort of stuck paying Matt Forte, you're going to pay Matt Forte huge money for the next couple of years. And that's really going to gum you up when you're trying to sign other free agents, maybe a pass rusher or a middle linebacker or a safety or another cornerback or whatever it may be. Is you're already locking that money and earmarking it for Matt Forte. But now that you have Jeremy Langford, who is shown he's capable of being a 3-down back, he can pass block, he can catch, he can run the screen, he can be the feature back that carries it. And you had Kadeem Carey, who came in there and didn't look bad running the ball, averaging 4 yards a carry. carry with 4 yards of carry. Boom. You have Jeremy Langford, who's showing that now you do have a capable backup, and you've got this guy locked away for, I don't remember if he signed for 4 or 5 years, but at least 4 years you've got this guy locked up for. So, you don't need Matt Forte. You would like to have Matt Forte. It would be awesome to have Forte and Jeremy Langford, because you really set yourself up, and you don't put those miles on Matt Forte that you've been relying on previously. Is you can really space out his runs and limit him and keep him more fresh and be able to preserve him a little longer. And the same thing with Jeremy Langford is you're not going to put the miles on him by putting him as a feature back. It's a nice problem to have as 2 good running backs, but it puts the Bears in a position of power because they don't have to sign Matt Forte. Matt Forte doesn't have all the cards in his hand. They have a guy that's fully capable of replacing him. And the rest of the league is who knows what they're going to pay, is because running backs aren't a hot commodity like they were, especially a 30-year-old running back who has a ton of miles and is coming off a knee injury. So Matt Forte's price just way went down with the knee injury, his age, and Jeremy Langford. And hopefully the Bears are able to give him something that is fair for him and fair for the Bears and keeps him around for another couple years. That's the hope. What else? For as far as the good is Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler had the highest quarterback rating in a single game that he's ever had in his NFL career, 151. He was 15 for 24 for 258 yards and 3 touchdowns. And none of those passing yards were in garbage minutes because they were running at the end of the game because they were up by so much. They were just trying to eat the clock. So, he could have easily gone over 300 yards, 350, but they just didn't need to. They were just trying to kill the clock. That was really awesome. Jay Cutler, he didn't have any passes that were head scratchers or WTF moments. He ran the system like it was supposed to be run. It was just a great game for Jay Cutler. And I'm coming from a camp of I'm not a Jay Cutler hater. I'm not a Jay Cutler lover. I try to be a Jay Cutler realist and know what his capabilities are and his limitations are. And this offensive scheme is geared up to fit Jay Cutler's strengths and minimize his weaknesses, and that is awesome. And another great moment is there was a moment where Jay Cutler standing on the sideline laughing and joking with Adam Gase, the offensive coordinator, and John Fox, the head coach. And that was so awesome to see, because that's a good sign, is because when Jay Cutler starts feuding with his coordinators and his coaches, that's when things start going downhill. And you don't see that. You see unity. You see these guys getting along well. That's a really positive sign. What else do I want to talk about positives? Adam Gase. Adam Gase should have been the MVP of this game. The Rams have a pretty good defense, and if not a full defense, they've got a good front seven. That defensive line is pretty fierce with Nick Fairley and Aaron Donald. It's a fierce defensive line. It's a fierce front seven. And with a banged up offensive line and backups in there and a backup running back in there, and you're still banged up at wide receiver, this Bears offense shouldn't have been able to do what they did. The Rams should have been able to dictate that. And what happened is and they mixed up all of their plays, and they kept the Rams defense off balance and guessing. And they did it by running outside, running inside, short passes, some deep passes, rolling out the pocket. They were not predictable in anything they did. And it really kept the Rams off balance, and they weren't able to pin their ears back and rush the passer, because when those moments when they did pin their ears back, they got to Jay Cutler, and they they really got him a couple of times pretty good. And that's what you didn't want. And that's the reason that Adam Gase was my MVP for this game, because he really did a lot of things to help curb that pass rush of the Rams, and help to be able to move that Bears offense. Is because if they couldn't get that pass rush, you felt confident in what you could do as the Bears. And you have Jeremy Langford running for 73 yards and Kadeem Carey running for 56 yards. So the Bears were able to move the ball on the ground, and that wasn't all trick plays or anything like that. It was a lot of consistent quality gains. And then you had some big passing plays, which were awesome to see. So it's Adam Gase really mixed everything up and maximized the play calling to minimize the Rams' strengths, which is their pass rush and their defensive line. And it worked like a charm. And there's good and bad to this. Is the good is you get the win, you're developing a system and a rapport with Jay Cutler that's going to be great going forward. The bad news is that if you guys keep winning, Adam Gase is going to get a head coaching job next year or for this coming season, and you're going to lose him. You're going to have to replace him and rebuild all of this, which really sucks, because you finally get Jay Cutler into a system that's working for him, and then your coordinator is going to go off and get a job. And that's the thing about the NFL. You have to live and die by that. Let's see, the Bears defense has some serious holes in it still. You saw it mostly on that first drive. And let me step back just a second. Is the game plan going into this had to be for the Rams is dominating a beat-up offensive line of the Bears. And albeit it's an offensive line that has played very well for having a right tackle that wasn't a right tackle at the start of this season, a left tackle who's the backup left tackle. You have two guards that aren't your starting guards. They're both you have your two backup guards in, and then you have your starting left guard being your center, because the center from the start of the season is out for the season, and your backup center is out with an injury. So he's your third string center. You're on your third string center, your backup right guard, a new starting right tackle, a backup left guard, and a backup left tackle. That sums up what your offensive line is. And the Rams had to be licking their chops with that defensive line that they have. They should have been able to go in there and just beat the crap out of Jay Cutler and stop the run. And that had to be the game plan of the Rams is stop the run, pressure Jay Cutler with that fierce pass rush, and Todd Gurley them to death. That's the plan I would have gone with. And that's the plan that the Bears assumed they were going to go into, and they wanted to stop Todd Gurley. That was the game plan, is they geared up to stop Todd Gurley from running for 200 yards down their throats. And Todd Gurley didn't do much. I mean, he had 12 carries for 45 yards. He did have a touchdown, but it didn't really do much for the game. That's, the credit the Bears for being able to stop him, but that first drive was just ugly. They couldn't get any pass rush. Nick Foles was on fire. They moved the ball right down the field and scored a touchdown right at will, almost. And it looked like a bad sign for the Chicago Bears. You have that march right down the field, and I think everybody, the collective Chicago Bears fandom, it just got dejected right there, because you're so used to the last two seasons of Chicago Bears defense, where what you see on a bad play is what you're going to get that whole game, unless it got worse. And the Bears defense, to their credit, after that awful first drive, really started to shore it up a bit. They were making plays, and they weren't getting as much pass rushes as you expect, but you have Pernell McPhee was out for the game, and you have Willie Young, who is a guy that almost wasn't on the team, at the trade deadline, and you have him coming up and stepping in to be the starter on the other side of Sam Acho, who wasn't a starter at the beginning of the season either. It's and they didn't get as much pressure as you would have wanted, but that's been the problem the whole season. But they were able to step up and plug the holes and really contain that run. And the Rams have had problems all season long with converting on third down. So you stop the run on first down, you force them to pass, you force them to get into third down situations and make them shoot themselves in their foot. The Rams have Tavon Austin, and they've got Todd Gurley. They've got some home run threats, but the problem is the Rams offense isn't built to do sustained drives. They can't do it because of their third down efficiency. So if the Bears, you slow them down, you force them to do some things that they're not able to sustain doing, like marching down the field. And you're the Bears, and your defense shores up enough. And it doesn't help that Nick Foles turned into Josh McCown, the most 90% of his career Josh McCown, for that most of that game, and he's underthrowing balls and overthrowing balls. And you have Tracy Porter, who steps up and looking great, and Kyle Fuller looked good. It's nice to see. And I mean, I keep putting back is their Bears are playing the Rams, and the Rams aren't a bad team, but they played really badly today. You can't take too much away from what they did, but you have to give the credit where credit is due. Is Terry Porter made a lot of good plays. Kyle Fuller made some good plays. The only two defensive backs that didn't look good this game, well, three, but one we'll go back to in a bit, is the two that were actually playing defensive back for the moment were Antrell Roll, who is like a statue out there. I can't see him being on this team next year with his salary and I think he could easily replace him. And the other one is Sherrick McManus, who's just god-awful. But the nice thing is you have Callahan stepping up, you have Porter stepping up, you have Kyle Fuller stepping up finally, and it's making your Adrian Amos, who's been great all season, just a stud for where they picked him up and where he's at in his career. You're finally starting to see a little bit of clickage there. And if you can have some sustained defensive linemen playing and getting some pass rush, it's going to look much better for the Chicago Bears. And then finally, let's talk about the ugly, is Nick Foles. Nick Foles was, if there was an MVP for the Bears defense, it was Nick Foles, because he was 17 of 36. Didn't throw any touchdown passes. He just looked terrible out there, other than that first drive. And I don't think that was the Bears' pass rush, because they did get to him a few times, but nothing crazy. He wasn't even getting nearly as much pressure on him as Jay Cutler was. It's just he was missing his passes, plain and simple. Then you have the other ugly is Mark Mariani. Why is this guy a returner in the NFL? It's unreal. He's not fast enough to bring it to the house. He's not quick enough to be a quality returner on punts, and he's muffing kicks. How many kicks does he have to muff before you have to yank him? It's just so frustrating. Nobody else can return kicks on this team. Hopefully Eddie Royal comes back soon, because maybe he can return a kick or two. But that's it for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Talking a little bit more about the impact of this win is, the Bears, for being a team with a losing record, the Bears have a lot of confidence going forward. Kyle Long has said that he really feels the Bears are going to be a playoff team. And Antrell Roll has said that this is the beginning of them going towards the playoffs. And if they can keep playing, if they can have the offense continue clicking like they have, and you suddenly get an Eddie Royal back and you get Matt Forte back, maybe you get a couple of your offensive linemen back. Maybe we can get Hronis Grasu back and move Slauson back to guard. and get Forte back so you can have Forte and Langford rather than Langford and Carey. And you have Jay Cutler playing this well, anything's possible if you have your offense clicking and your defense can make some key stops. And that's the big question is, can you get enough of a pass rush? Is Vic Fangio willing to blitz enough to get some added pressure? They've been pretty good against the run this season. They've been pretty good against the run. No, nothing special, nothing elite. It's been not getting enough pass rush and having these mediocre defensive backs be on islands, and it eventually breaks down and you have open receivers. And when you're playing guys like Aaron Rodgers, you're just going to get picked apart. And that's just the reality of it. What they need is if they're going to honestly contend for a wild card spot, they're going to need a bunch of things to happen. One is they need the Packers to continue to lose. I think the Vikings are a nice story and they're a pretty solid team. They're not a division-winning team at this point when you have Green Bay in there. I know Green Bay has issues, but Green Bay is still the cream of the crop. And if you get Green Bay losing a bunch of games in a row and losing their confidence, that's what you need, is because you can catch Minnesota. You should have beat Minnesota. You can catch Minnesota. You can't catch Green Bay. What else do you need? You need that offense to continue clicking. You need your defense to be able to come up with key stops and maybe start getting a few takeaways. Try and punch the ball a little more. Whatever it may be, you got to get a couple turnovers. And you need the special teams to just not make mistakes. And that probably means moving Mark Mariani off of kick returns. It's so embarrassing how bad he is. But if you're looking at the wild card stats right now, is the two teams that hold the wild card spots currently as it is. Well, the division winners right now are the Panthers have the number 1 overall seed. The Vikings are 7-2 right now with they've got the 2nd seed. The 3rd seed is the Cardinals at 6-2, and the Giants are the 4th seed at 5-4, and your wild cards are the Packers and the Falcons at 6-3 each. Then you've got Seahawks 4-4, and then you've got a slew of teams at 4-5. A couple of them are just, it's unreal that those teams are 4-5. You've got the Rams, who you just beat, the Eagles, who shouldn't be anywhere up there because they're bad. The Buccaneers are 4-5, they're bad. And the Redskins are 4-5, and they're bad. So realistically, you're not that far ahead, and you're ahead of the Saints because they're really bad, the 49ers because they're bad, the Lions because they're bad, and the Cowboys because Tony Romo is hurt. So it's you've got a realistic chance. It's just you've got to be able to play better going forward. What's your remaining schedule if you're the Bears? You've got the Broncos next week. And a couple weeks ago, I would have been like, crap, this is a bad matchup because they play such tough defense and they don't play well against Peyton Manning. But Peyton Manning threw for 35 yards today and 4 interceptions. I'm going to put that out there again. 35 yards and 4 interceptions against the Chiefs. And last I checked, they were losing 29-0. After that, you get the Green Bay Packers, and this is a different Green Bay Packers than we saw at the beginning of the season. It's a much different team. You don't have them exuding confidence and thinking they can win, and you have the Bears who have reeled off a couple wins in a row, and if they can beat Denver, they're going to be sitting pretty. It's at Green Bay. That's never a good place to play, but Detroit just won there. They've just lost 3 games in a row. That defense is reeling. And if this Bears offense can not turn the ball over, which is Jay Cutler's kryptonite versus the Packers, it's a good chance that the Bears could beat the Packers in Lambeau Field. But again, it's the Packers, and they always have the Bears number. This is going to be a really, really tough matchup. That next game is San Francisco 49ers at home. San Francisco is not playing well. That's a game you need to win. Not saying they will. It's just a game they need to win. This is a 3 week in advance, so anything can change with this team. You get the Redskins in Chicago, and I think the Redskins are pretenders because if they're ever going to get an interception, it's going to be off Kirk Cousins. That guy's an interception machine. Then you go to Minnesota. You have Tampa Bay at home, and then you have end the season with the Lions at home. Realistically, I'm not going to make any predictions. I'm just saying is that the Broncos aren't playing well, the Packers aren't playing well, 49ers aren't playing well, the Redskins aren't playing well, the Buccaneers aren't playing well, and the Lions aren't playing well. Of your remaining 7 games at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's the remaining 7 games, 6 teams aren't playing very well. If you're able to continue the momentum you're on, you have your defense be able to get some key stops, you win the turnover battle, your special teams don't make mistakes, and your offense is playing like they're currently playing, 6 of those 7 are very winnable games, and that 7th one is against a team that you should have beat in the Minnesota Vikings, even though it's at Minnesota this time. So the Bears sitting at 4-5. If they are able to bring these 6 wins home, you're sitting at 10-6. That's a really good chance of making the playoffs right there. That is a long shot, and I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying stranger things have happened. Look at the Giants a couple years ago. God, it's more than a couple years ago. When they were a wild card team, barely made the playoffs, and then stormed through and won the Super Bowl. That stranger things have happened. This is a Bears team that, if they're able to find their identity on defense, and I keep harping on this, make key stops. Is you don't have to have a shutdown defense. The Patriots prove that time and time again. They just make key stops. They'll let you get a couple first downs. They'll make a key stop, or let you commit a dumb penalty. Don't make a lot of penalties. Get the ball in the hands of Tom Brady. Tom Brady scores enough points to win. That's their key to success. And if the Bears offense is able to operate like a well-functioning machine, and that doesn't mean going down and scoring every single drive. It means score when you get in the red zone, get more touchdowns than field goals, convert every single time you get into the red zone. When you get the ball, don't go 3 and out. At least change the field position to make it easier for your defense, to give them a little bit of a breathing room physically on the sideline to catch their breath, and also to give them a longer field that the offense has to work with. Those are the keys to winning, and if the Bears are able to do those things, and even if they don't win the special teams battle, just keep it as a wash by having Mark Mariani not drop muff punts and muff kickoffs and make bad decisions out there. And don't give up kickoff touchdowns. Then it's a wash, and you just have to win either the offense or the defensive battles. What else do I have to say about this? So looking forward to next week, this is still a really dangerous Denver defense. They're a really good defense. The offense is sputtering. The Bears are going to have to shut down that offense and be able to score as many points as they can, and hopefully it's enough. The game is in Chicago. That's a plus sign. And then you have, who knows what's wrong with Peyton Manning, because he's not playing like Peyton Manning. 4 interceptions and 35 yards passing this week. You're gonna have to keep him playing like that, because if you get that backup in there, you're money. And then just be able to convert some points. Don't turn the ball over on offense, and protect Jay Cutler from Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, and you've got a good chance. It's like I said, this is going to have to be another game plan like they did this week. What's really smart is keep those pass rushers off balance. Don't ever let them feel comfortable in pinning their ears back and going, because this offensive line has played well. It just is not a good enough offensive line to snuff out big-time pass rushers. So you're going to have to keep them off balance and not be predictable in your play calling. Do some screen passes with tight ends. Throw some some short passes, mix them up with the long passes. Move the pocket left, move the pocket right. Do some sweep plays, do some trap plays. It's all about maintaining that inconsistency on offense and keep the defense off balance. And on the flip side is it's going to be get pressure on Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning he's a statue out there. He can't do anything other than maybe step up in the pocket. You've got to get in there. You got to force him to roll out and get some of those interceptions. His passes have not been great this year. You're going to have to take risks if you're a cornerback and try to undercut a route, because you're going to have to get some interceptions there, because this is still an offense that a couple years ago was the best in football. And I know that they don't have all the same talent on there, and they don't have the same offensive coordinator, but you still have Peyton Manning. And regardless of what he did this week, he's capable of going next week and lighting you up for 3-4 touchdowns. And I guess that's really all I have to say about this. And I apologize for not having more about the other Chicago sports teams. It's just baseball ended. Don't have much to say right now. And I have some basketball games DVR that I haven't watched. And same thing with the Blackhawks. I've only caught bits and pieces because I've been out on the road for work and took the wife and the kid for a nice little weekend. But thank you guys so much for listening. And as usual, make sure you check out the social media. Twitter @Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Subscribe to us on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, however you listen. Send it to your friends, send it to your mom, send it to your dad, send it to your brother, whoever you send it to. Make sure you send it to people so they're also listening. Thank you guys so much for listening, though, and until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her, you can have her, she's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like... Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears!
Oh, when the Bears go bearing